that do the best. God damn these fucking Mexicans ruining my fucking show! Anyway.
He's got the leaf blower out now.
What the fuck?
I think they heard you in this.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Blue State Survivalist. We've got a whole bunch of shit to go over right now. I've got Shogun with me. Now, first, let me just remind everybody, we're brought to you today by The Dollhouse, finest purveyor of waifus on the planet. If you're going to buy a doll, buy from the biggest, buy from the best, thedollhouse.com. Also, rocketheater.com. Off-grid heating for your house, your hunting lodge, your cabin. You can burn scraps, wood, fuel, anything you want. Just make sure you mention my name, Halsey. You get $50 off your first order. If you have any questions or comments, or you are able to support the show, please do so with the PayPal or Streamlabs link that I put into the chat. Shogun, man, how you doing?
Well, I'm doing all right. Although, I mean, I'm in one way or another, I'm always pissed, but hey, I'm doing all right.
Well, I mean, we got a whole bunch of shit going on. It's crazy. So
yeah.
Let's start talking about Polymer 80, okay? So just for those of you that don't know, Polymer 80 makes 80% lowers for AR-15s, AK-47s, and Glock, generic Glocks, from what I understand.
Yeah, the 17 and 19 mostly. There's, I think there was like a 20. There's 21 also, and some other compact models, but yeah, you get the idea.
Right. And so, because of that, the ATF has rated them. Not over the fact that they sell 80%, but the fact that they sell a kit called Buy, Build, Shoot, which comes not just with the 80% lower receiver, but all of the other tools you need, the trigger, the slide, all of the guts, the magazine, everything you need to build a fully functioning weapon. In addition to them rating Polymer 80, they've also got the credit card receipts of all of the people who have ordered from Polymer 80, and they've been raiding private houses to confiscate the actual weapons that they built or the kits. This is a pretty big deal.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you for just a second. Where you said they're raiding private houses, and then you cut out for a sec.
To either they're taking away either the fully built weapons, or they're taking away just the kit if that's all they have. And I mean, they're giving them receipts for it and everything, but this is a pretty big thing.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, some people may look at this and say, well, at least they're giving them receipts and giving them, refunding the money and stuff. But at the same time, yeah, that is a big deal because frankly, when they're coming after people's credit card information, so they're subpoenaing the information just so they can dox you and get the weapons. Yeah, that's starting to look more and more like China to me. But but it's not just Polymer 80 that they raided. They also, what was it? Yeah, it was Brownells, because they sell Polymer 80 as well, and other websites and places that sell it. But Brownells, the thing about Brownells is that, as far as I know, they didn't sell the actual the buy build kit. So with I know Armor Ally did. So that's one that did. Now, I actually bought Polymer 80s, just the 80% lowers, but I never bought the whole kit because in the state that I was in, it would have been illegal to have the entire kit shipped to where I live. You can only get the 80% lower receiver. And because in that particular state, it's legal to own it and it's legal to have it. I mean, but the thing is, you can't assemble it into a weapon. That's when it becomes a misdemeanor.
So in New Jersey, it used to be that you could order the lower, but you couldn't fabricate the gun in New Jersey. But you could order it to New Jersey and then just take it out of state and bring it back, without a problem. But now at this point, they've tightened the law, and any gun without a serial number by a federal source is considered illegal, and it's 5 to 10 years in prison too.
Yeah, it sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Although, go ahead. Well, ultimately, I was thinking, because it may seem that, well, as long as I just get the 80% lower receiver, then I'm going to be okay. But frankly, I believe they're going to go after those two at one point or another. They're always looking for an excuse, because basically what they're doing is now they're finding these kits, and then like they're going to start saying, okay, now that we found a kit to build an entire ghost gun, we're going to investigate your entire company, and then we're going to basically enforce the law how we see fit. We can state it as vaguely as possible, so that we have any excuse to shut you down and come after you and come after your customers. And yeah, it's gonna suck.
I mean, I would think that Polymer 80 would have been a little smarter about this, just to be honest. Just because if you look at the definition of a firearm by the ATF, I mean, it says any groupings of machinery that can be quickly assembled to launch a projectile. I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact wording, but they had somebody assemble a Polymer 80. Supposedly, the ATF. This is how they got the warrant. Is that they had somebody assemble the Polymer 80, and it took them 21 minutes, and they consider that fast enough that it can be considered a weapon. So basically, they have the right, according to the law, to invade all of these people's homes and to go into these people's homes because they purchased a weapon outside of what they're allowed to do.
Okay.
Because they didn't have a background check. Now, no one's being arrested, but
at least
at this point, at least. But it is stopping a lot of people who probably would have, that this is their only way to be armed, because either they've got a felony conviction or, they've in some way failed a background check. So those people are going to probably be effectively disarmed,
Yeah. Although, once again, when I got my the kits for my lowers, I actually bought the parts separately. That's what I had to do in order to actually get everything and, get around the stupid law. Now, can they come after me? Who knows? Maybe.
So supposedly, no. Supposedly, there's nothing illegal against selling an unfinished lower, as long as you don't sell it with all of the parts to assemble it and the instructions on how to assemble it.
Yeah, that was the other thing, is that when you get an 80% lower, you cannot actually get you cannot actually get the instructions to come with it. So you have to figure it out yourself, or go on YouTube and find people that have actually made videos on it. And Mike Green is saying, just get an illegal gun. Now, not everybody knows exactly where to go to get that, and that's not something I would like to expand on YouTube, at least those types of details.
Right. I mean, if you look at the videos on how to finish a Polymer 80, I mean, it really takes like 5 minutes. You drill 3 holes, you mill out the space for the ejector spring, and you just what's it called? You have to file down the 2 slide rails.
Uh-huh.
Like that literally takes like 2 minutes, and it comes with all the parts to do it. But as I said, in New Jersey and New York, it already is impossible. Like, you can't. It used to be that there was a way around it, and you could at least, in theory, make one and not get in trouble for it. But now it's, if you have anything without a federal serial number on it, you're fucked. So,
yeah.
Well,
yeah, sucks to be there, but ultimately, where there's a will, there's a way. Because if you look at Australia, where, I mean, their gun control is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, but you still have people that are building PA Ludies, fully automatic ones, I might add. And well, some people must have gotten caught, because there was a video on it. Some news story did a news piece on it, and they showed one of the police shooting the homemade 9mm also shot out of it. So someone's gonna figure out a way to start building these submachine guns and selling them underground and so forth. You'll never ever stop the production of ghost guns, no matter what you do.
no.
I mean, they could who knows? And for all we know, they might try to go after ghostgunner.net next.
I heard there already are. I heard there already are investigations, and they've sent a letter to them saying that they shouldn't ship parts until they get a clarification.
Yep, just as I figured. I mean, I expected them to do this, although, to be honest, this is a little sooner than I expected because I was expecting them to get Biden in office first, and then they start going after these places.
Yeah, but remember, this is the ATF. This isn't like they don't really care who's in power or anything like that. They just do. Andy Martin says, but how many shots is it good for? How long would it fire for? A Polymer 80 lower will last just as long, if not longer, than a regular Glock lower. It's not a 3D printed part. This isn't like you're building some Franken gun by printing it on a 3D printer and hoping it holds up. Like this is a solid lower. I've seen reviews where people say it lasts longer than Glocks. So I mean, it's a solid polymer lower. You know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it performs pretty well. Now I had a blue badge Glock 19. Of course, I had to sell it in order to get to this new state, which sucks because I really wanted to keep that pistol. And I had the Polymer 80, and based on my experience, at least initially, the Polymer 80 was more accurate. It was more comfortable to hold, and I definitely liked the Polymer 80, which was based off of Generation 3, better than the Gen 4, hands down.
Well, I mean, as of right now, as I said, there's only 2 states that restrict purchasing the lowers from Polymer 80, and while they're completely sold out on their site, and from what I understand, all their retailers are also sold out, but you can find them all over the place on like Gun Broker and all over the internet, and they're not even going for much higher than they would go normally. Like people aren't price gouging them, at least not yet. So it's one of those things. Like as long as you don't live in New York or New Jersey, or even if you do, they don't require a background check or being shipped to an FFL. So if you want to get your hands on them, I mean, obviously I'm not suggesting that anyone violate the laws of their states, but if you want to get your hands on one, I mean, you just order it to a relative that doesn't live in New York or New Jersey, and you're fine. I mean, if you get caught if you've taken it and turned it into a weapon, I mean, if you get caught, God help you. Right.
On top of that, now I'm assuming you can't have these shipped into California either.
I think you can, or they might have changed it. I don't know.
Yeah, I just remember it was only a few years ago where someone in California actually legally put together a ghost gun, and there was no issue. I think the guy actually gave it to the police afterward because he wasn't really interested in guns and stuff. But I can imagine that the law is just constantly changing over there. Because even in Florida, they actually tried to ban magazines over 10 rounds anyway. At least this year they tried to pass a bill for that. I don't believe it passed. I don't think it got very far either. That being said, I have some 40-round AK mags coming today.
According to the internet, in 2016, California enacted a law placing new requirements on anyone who manufactures or assembles a firearm or otherwise possesses an unserialized firearm but does not have a valid firearm manufacturer's license. So what that probably means is that you can still order it to California, but you have to apply for a California serial number. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, the law seems to only... No, the law also expressly prohibits individuals or companies from knowingly allowing, facilitating, aiding, or abetting the manufacture or assembly of a firearm by individuals prohibited from possessing a firearm under state law. That's pretty broad. So I would imagine that that Polymer 80 and places like that just wouldn't send them to California based just out of caution, because they could get charged with abetting if that gets turned into a weapon and it gets used in a crime.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, in California, it's one of those states where, that's one of the states where I actually wouldn't want to take a chance. Because the not only sometimes the laws are so vague, but I can just imagine not only it being used against me, but the instance that this actually happens. Let's say you actually do find a loophole. They're going to close it, and then it's going to screw everybody else over in the state. But if you live in that state and you're trying to own guns, then you're wrong anyway.
I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, if you live in California and you're trying to get your hands on these types of things. I mean, if you're really really like intent on it, I mean, obviously I'm not suggesting anybody break the law, because I would never ever do that. But if you really wanted to, I mean, you just go to Vegas and buy as many as you want, and then just bring them home. Because apparently it's not illegal to buy the lowers, you know?
Right.
Blue State Survivalist, what do we do if Biden passes the $200 rifle tax? Well, I mean, he can't just do that. It has to pass by a law. And I can't imagine that there's even Democrats that probably wouldn't sign on to that. And it's not, I wouldn't even be as worried about the tax as I would be having the weapons added to the FNA, you know? That I'm more worried about that. So, because I mean, the fact that you'd have to pay a tax on it, yeah, that sucks, because it'll cost everybody money. But the big issue is that you have to register it with the federal government. So it'll, like, you won't lose your AR per se, but you'll have to register it with the federal government, and you'll have to pay the tax. So, but I would just say. And look, as I said, I'm not encouraging anyone to break laws. Just I have to keep saying that, otherwise it's just going to get kicked off YouTube anyway. But if it looks like that's going to pass, I would suggest people just start calling their local police and reporting their shit stolen. You know, if you're that intent on it, because if it passes and then they come to your house and say, "Oh, we know you have an AR-15, you know, because of X or Y or Z." And you owe us the $200, and you say, "Oh no, it was stolen." They're not going to believe you, and they're going to say that you're just doing. They could even charge you with tax evasion at that point, and that's without even finding the weapon. But if you reported it stolen before it happened, there's pretty much nothing they can do. I mean, if the police believe that you're lying, they could raid your house. But if you report it stolen, then just keep it in your house. You're pretty stupid in the first place. You probably deserve to get caught.
Or what you could do is claim that you sold the weapon and this probably isn't the best of ideas. If you live in a state where it's not against the law to sell a gun without an FFL transfer, you can just claim that you did that, relinquish ownership of the gun, and then there you go.
Andy Martin says 8 rifles times $200 is $1,600. Then they'll offer a huge buyback. Yeah, but that's making the assumption that people would sell them back by choice. Like, most people, even if the government offered them double what it was worth, if you can't get another one, they're not going to sell their guns to the government. They're just going to tell the government to go fuck themselves. And, someone said, Fishmill says, New York State already went through with this. Every fourth guy I know has a rifle they were supposed to register and didn't. It's the same thing with the over 10-round magazines in New Jersey. Like, the only people that gave them up were people that had concealed carry permits, because if they catch you, you'll lose all your permits. But I think most people just kept them, and when they go to a range and train, obviously they're not going to bring a 30-round magazine, because the range would be obligated to call the police. You know, but if you have them in your house, like, no one's raiding your house over a 20 or 30-round magazine. You know, and if shit ever hit the fan, at least you have it. But you couldn't train with it anyway, but there's no difference between training with a 10-round and a 30-round. It really makes no difference.
Right. Unless you're way out in the woods and there's no one there to hear it.
But even then, it still is better to, unless you're training for competition, that's completely different, right? Just because in competition you have to train with what everyone else will be using, and timing matters. But if you're training for, like, combat, it's better to train with 10-round magazines, because you'll swap out more. So you'll get more practice swapping out mags. You know, so training with a 10-round magazine when you're actually training for, like, combat or self-defense is probably better, because it doesn't matter whether you have 10 or 17. There's a good chance you'll have to swap out magazines. And if you're not training to do that, then you're behind, you know?
Right.
So there's no real issue with doing that. But again, I just see more and more people are saying that they're not going to comply with any of these laws. And I know there's differences of opinion out there, but I don't believe they're going to start going door to door.
Oh, sorry. I need to respond to my boss. He's messaging me right now.
Oh, it's not a problem. It's not a problem. It's funny that all the lefties are on like social media right now going, "Oh, Wisconsin just voted for Biden. Wisconsin or Michigan voted for this. Georgia voted for that." Like, it's completely meaningless. They don't get opened by the Senate until until January 6th anyway. So like them voting today means absolutely nothing. It's just these retarded leftists that think that they'll be able to use this as some kind of club is really silly. And now they're saying the first dose of the coronavirus vaccine has been injected into someone, you know, God forbid. So I can't believe Hillary Clinton is an elector in New York. Like, I can't believe anyone would keep her relevant for any reason whatsoever.
Well, when you're a Democrat and vagina and when there's political correctness, nothing surprises me.
Someone in one of my chats just put a really funny thing. The Green MP, I think from Canada, Ricardo Menendez March, says men winking at women should be a criminal offense. A wink is effectively rape by sight and reflects the worst of white male privilege and toxic masculinity. Could you imagine? Sir, I saw you wink at her. Like, you see, I'm just waiting for that. The first person that was injected was a black nurse from New York, as someone just said. I'm just waiting for this thing to have like ridiculous side effects, and then everyone to come out and be like, "Oh my God, they tested it on black people on purpose." You know, like it's all just so stupid. It's really just so stupid.
Yeah, it really is. My goodness, even the thought of it is giving me a headache. But what else? Was there anything else I was about to mention about that Polymer 80 thing? I don't remember.
I mean, as I said, it's one of those things where if you're in a position where you either A, can't buy a firearm, or B, you're in a state that just restricts them to the point where it's really, you know, it's going to hinder your ability to defend yourself, like, go out now and get one, because you never know what the ATF is going to do when it comes to stuff like that. Like, everyone thought, oh, bump stocks, like Obama's ATF approved bump stocks, you know, and it was Trump's that got rid of them. So don't ever assume that like the political winds are in your favor. Therefore, don't worry. If something comes out as being like, it seems like it's a loophole, it probably is some level of loophole. So just if you're partial to it, be careful. Like, I don't care about bump stocks at all. So, like, yes, I don't want them making anything illegal when it comes to firearms, but losing the ability to have one does nothing to me. But if you're one of those people who needs a Polymer 80, you know.
Yep. I mean, a Polymer 80 plus the right trigger, and let's just say you got something interesting.
Right.
Yeah. Also, before I forget, I meant to say this on the last stream. Now, there was somebody that was asking me about their opinion of an SKS versus an AK-47. Now, I'm going to partially retract that statement, and here's why. Now, yes, the SKS is bigger. It is slightly more accurate than an AK. But the thing is that there are still people that like the SKS because you have a little greater accuracy, and because that weapon is cheaper, plus you can get magazines for it as well, or you can convert. At least I heard that you can convert AK mags to work in an SKS. Now that can, because AKs are lighter, especially like there's some AKs that are more like pistol style, like the 74. Because the AK is lighter, it's more maneuverable. Like certain ones are easier to conceal, no folding stock and all that good stuff. But the SKS is actually not a bad idea, especially if you can't afford an AK-47 and you want to modify it to your needs. Because there are people that are actually preferring the SKS over it. Andy Martin is saying the AK is more reliable.
I mean, no, he said it is, and he's saying fuck accuracy. AK is fine up to 300 yards. I mean, that's true, and the whole point of the AK platform was that it fires under any circumstance. Like there's nothing that will stop you from fucking unleashing with an AK. So it's a great platform, you know.
Oh yeah, and also, I mean, although I've never actually gotten to shoot one yet because let's just say the chance to get one always escapes me. But when Russians hear Americans say that the AK is less accurate, the first thing they're going to tell you is that's because you don't know how to shoot it.
Yeah, you haven't trained with it.
Yeah, because if you know how to train with then yeah, you can master that weapon. Because, for example, when I first got my Glock, nobody ever actually taught me how to properly hold the thing until one time an instructor who was former military, he said, hey, let me show you something. Let me show you the right way to hold that thing. So he showed me. I started shooting again. My groupings were not only a lot tighter, but it was so much easier to get a headshot at 12 yards. Like now, getting a headshot at 12 yards is nothing. Between the eyes, actually.
And just to correct Mike Green, get Bell's palsy from the vaccine, get a huge payout by the company or the government if they didn't write in something and say you can't sue the company or government if you get side effects. All vaccines are covered by the liability shield for vaccine manufacturers. It was a law implemented about 30 years ago. There is a fund that you can apply to for payout if you're injured by a vaccine, but it's not going to pay you like punitive damages or any mass amount of, like, I mean, you'll still be compensated, but not at the rate you would over some ridiculous, lawsuit over a vaccine injury. But it does already exist. But yeah, it's the VARS database is where they report all the payouts. But all vaccine manufacturers are shielded automatically. So, sorry. Kalashnikov is the only commie I like.
Yeah, you can say that again.
I mean, look, it's a great platform. It's and it's got its pluses and its minuses, and so does the AR. But I mean, so someone's asking you a question, which is good because I got to run for 1 second. How hard was it to finish your 80 Shogun? It looks simple. Like, talk about it for a minute.
Okay, so there's two sides to that. So now you didn't specify whether you were. Oh wait. Well, obviously you're talking about the Glock because I never actually got to finish the AR. Okay, so the Glock one was actually fairly simple. Now, as long as you have a Dremel, I mean, you can do it with a drill, but I don't necessarily recommend it. I believe a Dremel's better because the Dremel's faster and it's better for drilling because it spins at higher RPM than just your standard drill. But a drill will work. I mean, even if you have a hand drill, it'll work, but you just have to be really careful. Now, because of course, the first thing you want to do is, I forgot actually which step you want to take first. Because first you have to either drill the holes or sand off the parts that actually will stop the slide from getting on and stop you from putting the barrel in. Now, because what I did with my first one, I actually took some hand tools and sanded down the parts that were necessary to sand down. Now, I did it over the period of a few days because I just did it little by little while I was working on the stuff. Then I took a rounded hand tool, and sanded out the center. Now, that actually takes quite a bit of time. A Dremel actually gets it done a lot faster within minutes. So I definitely recommend a Dremel. Now, when it comes to drilling the holes, you have to be really careful because if you drill the holes at the wrong angle, you have to drill it straight down. And with each side, you drill it only to the point where it goes like halfway through. Because if it goes all the way through, you could have a hole that is at the wrong angle. It's not going straight, and it's going to make it really hard to get the pins in there. That was the mistake I made with my first one. But fortunately, it wasn't too bad that I couldn't correct it. So I actually put the drill. I drilled a new hole. I drilled in the same hole, but drilled it in the right direction, and I was able to get the pin to go straight across. Now, I almost could have screwed up the whole thing entirely, but fortunately that wasn't the case. I was able to get it in. I was able to get all the parts in. Of course, I also looked into what parts you need to oil. Now, because stocking up on synthetic oil is just as important as stocking up on ammo and parts, of course. Now, After putting all that together, ordering the parts off of eBay and other websites that actually sell Glock parts, put it all together, had a working pistol. Now, but after that, it's still not quite over when you have it built, because it's not going to slide easy like a brand new factory Glock. You see because it's going to be rough along the edges, especially if you have a spring that catches on to the areas where you sanded. You may have to sand it out a bit more and stuff like that. But ultimately what you have to do is you have to use it. I recommend putting between 200 and 500 rounds through that thing, and it will eventually feel more natural. That's the other thing that other people have reported, because sometimes you will get a misfire. Sometimes you might get a slight jam, but don't fret. What you have to do is just keep using it. Also, knowing when the slide doesn't go all the way forward or something like that, catching that, as well as what else? Now, I think that was pretty much it. So that was my overall experience. Do I recommend it? Actually, yes, because you actually learn a thing or two about assembling a weapon, what makes it work, and stuff like that gives you an advantage over the average Joe that just buys the pistol and pulls the trigger, holding it to the side, thinking they're going to shoot somebody and look all gangster.
Well, those people have problems to begin with. I mean, I think I told you I was at a range. I was actually there with my wife. This was a couple of years ago, and a jogger, first-time shooter, came in and rented I think it was a 1911. I don't remember, but he held it sideways and he fucking pulled it, and his wrist snapped like a twig. It was sickening to watch. Like they called the ambulance. I mean, this guy was screaming right up until they fucking took him away. So
limp-wristed shooting.
Limp-wristed side shooting. I mean, that's what happens when you watch too many movies, though. You know, you watch too many movies and you think that that's the correct way to do anything, and whatever. You know,
right? I mean, on top of that, I mean, speaking of movies, I know I mentioned this before, but there was a recent shooting at a church in New York City.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, they said that he had two weapons. I don't know. I'm assuming he used both weapons in both hands, but either way, there's one thing that you cannot do is reliably fire two weapons, and because you can't look down both sights. If you can't look on both sides, you're not even guaranteed to hit anything. You're just wasting ammo. It's not like, remember the movie League of Extraordinary Gentlemen?
Yes.
Where you had the two gunmen. Well, the younger guy, he was basically, had two pistols. He's popping both off. He's shooting at what's his name that has the potion that makes him really strong. And the older guy is saying, no, that's not how you do things. That's not even realistic. I don't even think so. The guy that was the shooter, I don't even think he even hit anybody, because at least they didn't report any people that were actually injured. Yeah, he shot at the police, but the police didn't get hit. He didn't even know how to aim the thing.
I don't know. I don't know why people would. I mean, granted, they're movies. They're supposed to be, fake. It's right. One of those things. But I mean, anybody who tries to act like they're in a movie and tries to use guns like that, man, you are in for a world of hurt. That's for sure. Yeah. That is very true. I mean, there's all kinds of myths when it comes to guns. I mean, especially like with shotguns. Now, just because even if it's birdshot, just because the shot spreads out after you shoot it doesn't mean you can't miss. Because even though I haven't done this since '99, I used to go out shooting clay birdies. Yes, it is definitely possible to miss, even when you think that you shot dead on. I mean, it takes some practice. I mean, I was young at the time. I didn't really know what I was doing. But yeah, you definitely can miss. But frankly, that's one thing I would hope to do this week is go out and shoot clay birdies again, because I miss doing that immensely. Fortunately, Walmart sells them. It's been years since I went trapper skeet shooting. Ever since they closed the range by my house, it's not worth going. The gun club I have now, you can go, like you could use a shotgun to shoot pigeons, but you have to bring your own launcher. So it's just CZ75 always looks like. I have a CZ-P09. It's phenomenal. So CZ are amazing guns, and they're usually made pretty well. Mine had a problem, but they replaced it, and man, it is fucking awesome. But Shogun, I told you I'm on a crunch for time. I actually got to run. Okay, but I will be back later, guys. Thank you all for turning out. I really do appreciate it. And we will be back shortly. We will be back at 10 o'clock. I'm with Tom. We're going to go over everything that happened today. And at 9 o'clock, I'm going to be with Brian for an hour. We're going to be doing the Helping Hands AMA. Thank you guys very much for turning up. Thank you, Shogun, and we shall talk very shortly.
My fellow Americans, tonight I am speaking to you because there is a growing humanitarian and security crisis at our southern border.
In all honesty, a border wall or steel slats won't work. But great bodies of water will separate us from the horrible Mexican rapists. Introducing the 2019 Trump Great Border Moat. Stocked with the most aggressive penis fish, incredible man-eating alligators, and unbelievable genetically modified moose-cocked rape dolphins, as well as flying, migrant-eating sharkfish. So incredible.
I swore to protect our country, and that is what I will always do. So help me God. Thank you and good night.